Support comes from ServiceNow. We're for people doing the creative work they actually want to do. That's why this ad was written and read by a real person and not AI. You know what people don't want to do? Boring, busy work. Now with AI agents built into the ServiceNow platform, you can automate millions of repetitive tasks in every corner of your business, IT, HR, and more, so your people can focus on the work that they want to do. That's putting AI agents to work for people. It's your turn. Visit ServiceNow.com.
The rural way of life is about making everyone feel at home. Tractor Supply chose advanced 5G solutions from T-Mobile for Business to transform intelligent customer service. Together, we put the power of AI to work across 2,200 stores, keeping things running seamlessly inside, curbside, and countryside. This is elevated customer experience. This is Tractor Supply with T-Mobile for Business. Take your business further at T-Mobile.com/now.
Choosing a bottled Starbucks Frappuccino drink that's all flavor and just 100 calories? Easy. Choosing between creamy vanilla, double chocolate, and sea salt caramel flavors? A little harder. Try the delicious new Starbucks Frappuccino light drinks. Look for them wherever you buy groceries. Start with Starbucks coffee.
No breaks, no fear. The official British Speedway podcast.
Well, this podcast, the theme is major events. We've got Grand Prix, we've got British Under-21 Championships, and of course, we've got the British Final with possibly the greatest speedway race of all time. Certainly one of the greatest we've seen in a very long time, and it was won by Robert Lambert.
Probably one of the hardest British final races as well. There was bikes and lines being pulled on the track. I didn't know was possible, but that's what this track puts on, a great show, and what a way to do it.
Our main guest in this episode is the man who claims second place in that final, but the wildcard for 2 Grand Prix rounds in Manchester, Charles Wright.
Actually, my friend and my sponsor bought me a ticket to go and watch on the Saturday. Yeah, it was quite funny that, and now I'm sort of in it.
And we look ahead to the next major event. The British Under-21 Final takes place in Glasgow on Sunday. Among the lineup is Luke Killeen.
I believe I won a race in the Under-21s there last year, so there's no reason I can't do it again, but we're obviously going to have to knuckle down because this year's the lineup's looking very tough.
And Kelvin Tatum joins us to look back on Landshut and ahead to the next Grand Prix this weekend in Warsaw.
It's not for us to have Gorzów, Torun, very far from it. So home track advantage, certainly for the Polish contingent, doesn't exist. And going further to that, a Polish rider hasn't won in an Aerodoby. They got on the rostrum, and until last year, Bartosz Szmalczyk hadn't made the final.
No breaks, no fear. The official British Speedway podcast.
So plenty of reaction to come from the British Final, but what a finale it was to the 2025 Attis Insurance Sports Division British Final at the National Speedway Stadium. 17 overtakes, 6 lead changes. All 4 riders led the race at one point. Here is that grand final.
Here we go. 4 big laps here in the grand final. Tanks are up. We're away. We're into the first corner. Beauty's got there. Robert Lambert coming around the outside of Harris. Harris hanging on his second row. Here comes Lambert trying to put the pressure on. Down Beauty. Beauty's gone wide. Lambert's got up the inside. Will he block past? Yes, he has. Beauty has to get out of the way. Here comes Harris. That mixes things up big time. And an advantage to Robert Lambert with Beauty at the back.
Robert Lambert really engineered that first lap. I've got a feeling he had a game plan all along and he worked it absolutely perfectly. Look at the battle now between Beauty, Wright, Harris now following Lambert right around the outside.
Beauty's got to go front. Lambert now trying to repay the compliment. Lambert's got very, very wide as well. Beauty once again is blocked back. Harris now hits the front. Chris Harris has now come to the front. Charles Wright round the inside. What a race. This is incredible racing.
It got Harris again.
Round the outside, this is the final effort of the run to the line. Robert Lambert wins the British Championship. What a speedway race. Oh my goodness gracious me. That was an extraordinary race.
That was extreme.
I can't quite believe what I've just witnessed.
That was extreme.
That was incredible.
Coming up, we'll hear from Charles Wright, an extended interview with Charles on the way. He bags the wild card for the British Grand Prix. But first of all, let's hear from the champion then, Robert Lambert, speaking to Phil Lanning.
Robert Lambert, congratulations, the Attis Insurance Sports Division British champion. Second time. It's been a long wait, 7 years. But boy, did you do that in style tonight. That was probably the greatest British final race of all time.
Yeah, it was probably one of the hardest British final races as well. There was bikes and lines being pulled on the track. I didn't know was possible, but there was. That's what this track puts on, a great show, and we the fans and everyone got that. But no, I'm super pumped with getting my second British Championship title, and what a way to do it.
You came back here last year for the first time for a while to try and win this again. Special feeling because obviously the national title sort of has gone through a different sort of stage in British Speedway, but you've come back and Dan, and you've really shown what you can do over the last couple of years.
Yeah, definitely. It was last year maybe good that I had a bad British final because I was able to change things, turn it around for the Speedway Nations where we got that amazing second gold. So it's awesome. Me and Dan was we're definitely up there, and that's great to be racing with him, and there's just small margins between the both of us, so it was anyone's game tonight, and and then as we look further down the field, this from tonight is great to see that British Speedway is prospering.
And the perfect boost before, in a month's time exactly, you'll be back here for 2 Grand Prix, chasing the world title, current world number 2. Absolutely perfect position to come into this with a lot more belief.
Oh, definitely. It's funny enough, we had the same engine for the Peter Craven meeting, and it didn't work. But hopefully things are dialed a bit better now, and we can come back to a GP, and the track will be similar, not too much water, and we'll be on for a good meeting.
Congratulations, Robert. Brilliant night. Thank you very much.
So congratulations to Robert Lambert, British champion in 2025. Runner-up was Charles Wright, claiming a silver medal, but also the right to take the wild card for not just 1, but 2 Grand Prix in his home city, Charles Wright. And Charles joins us now. Charles will reflect on that crazy race, one of the great races of all time for the Grand Final. But right from the off, though, you were there or thereabouts. The talk and the focus was all on Dan Bewley, of course, going for 4 in a row, on Robert Lambert being the world number 2. But you were very much out of the races and have been in the shake-up right from your first heat.
Yeah, from the first race, I nearly touched the tapes, which wasn't ideal. I think Danny had a little bit of a twitch on the outside gate that nearly sent me through the tape. So it started off okay, but I felt from that race I had decent speed. So it was just a few minor adjustments, and then the next 2 I won quite cleanly. And I felt like I had speed on the night, and that was the main thing. Round Bellevue, if you don't have the speed, it's a very hard track to get any points on. So we had the good speed in the bike, so that was the main thing. And then just went through the meeting, and then was making right decisions on the track. And I said before the meeting, just no pressure, and just get to the semi final, and anything can happen from there.
Let's watch the race back, and you can talk us through it, because I know when you finished the race, you hadn't seen it back. I guess you didn't realise quite how crazy it was. But people watching this race, some people have watched Speedway for 40, 50. I've seen some guy saying he's been watching Speedway for 60 years and never seen a race like it. In Poland, the race is doing the rounds there as well. They're saying that they wish. I've seen one Polish commentator saying that they wish they could have 9 rounds of the Grand Prix left in Manchester if the racing's going to be like that. So they're raving about it as well, and I think that is a thing that a lot of people look into British Speedway and say, well, Poland's better. But actually in Poland, they're looking at this and saying this is like proper Speedway. So let's watch this race back.
4 big laps here in the Grand Final. Tanks are up. We're away. We're into the first corner. Bewley's got there. Robert Robert Lambert coming around the outside of Harris. Harris hanging on his second back. Here comes Lambert trying to put the pressure on. Down Beauty. Beauty's gone wide. Lambert's got up the inside. Will he block pass? Yes, he has. Beauty has to get out of the way.
So that's the first lap complete. Obviously, a bit of a mashup there, and we can see there that you're holding the inside line, and that was really the trick, wasn't it? That people should keep an eye on, that actually paid the dividend for you while everybody else was going for the outside.
Yeah, the track slickened off quite a lot by this point, and it was just, for me, setting my bike up for the inside, knowing of previous years of riding for the club, and knowing later on where the track comes good towards the end. And there was a few ruts and ridges around the inside, and if you caught them right, it would sort of slingshot you. But the only vulnerable place is obviously on the straights, where the people that have gone wide have built so much speed going into the next bend. But if you can just beat them into the next bend, and if you hit them right again, you can sort of get away with it. Like I say, Dan, Rob and Nat were chucking the bike at each other for a few laps, and then Bomber was in the mix, and I was just plugging around the inside really, and doing my own thing.
Right, well, it gets going. This is just the first lap. Let's see how the second lap ends out.
Robert Lambert really engineered that first lap. I've got a feeling he had a game plan all along, and he worked it absolutely perfect.
And then at this point, you've got Dan Bewley on your inside, which I guess, I don't know, you not how the bookies would have had that race, shall we say? You know, with the way that he'd been making the starts.
No, like you say, you're very vulnerable, and I think everyone had very similar speed, which made such a good race, because if someone didn't quite have the speed, they would have got left behind. But everyone, you know, the top four were in the final for a reason, because they had the best speed on the night and rode really clever. But I knew off that bend to try keeping it tight. And, you know, Dan's a very intelligent rider, and it's his home track, and he knows what works. And he just, down the straight, he nipped underneath us there. And it was just sort of keeping it calm and not, you know, I could have gone wide at this point and lost a load of ground. But to get out wide, you needed to build your speed. So I know the best place for me was the inside, and just working the track as best I could.
All right, let's get
Oh, look at the battle now between Bewley, Wright, Harris now following Lambert right around the outside.
Beauty's got to the front. Lambert now trying to repay the compliment. Lambert's got very, very wide as well. Beauty once again is blocked by Harris.
Right, so this is the start of the final lap. You've just had some crazy stuff going there in front of you. Bewley takes off, fires to the front. Lambert comes steaming back. Bomber's in there. You're at this point, you've got the best view in the stadium of what's going on.
Yeah, and as you can see, the three of them on the outside, they're heading for one place, is the outside. So I was literally left the whole inside of the track, and I knew it was so key to hit them ruts and get a good drive coming off the first bend. And I just hit him perfect, to be honest, and ended up on the front down the back straight.
Well, this is it. So this is the first and second turn in the final lap. You're here going in pretty much just about last, I think, crossing the start-finish line, and then through the bend.
And now it's the front. Chris Harris has now come to the front. Charles Wright round the...
Look at that. It's like you've hit the little turbo mushroom in Mario Kart. You've gone flying around the inside, and at this point now, you're, 3 bike lengths in front down the back straight there?
Yeah, and like I say, them boys from the outside down the straight, they're going to gather so much speed going into the last corner. And I knew in my head, I was waiting for somebody, if I got to that corner in the last bend without somebody, you know, diving across me and killing me speed. But luckily I had enough speed. But round the last bend, I sort of looked to me right, and I didn't know whether it was Bomber or Lambert, because going into the first in the last lap into the first corner, Bomber was actually in front. So at one point, I actually thought it was Bomber on the last bend and not Robert.
Let's have a look at the last bend then, because obviously, like you say, at this point, though, you hit the front, you got a bit of clear air, and that is like best case scenario at that stage of the race, isn't it? And as I say, you know though that they've got this extra speed coming from going wide.
Inside, what a race! This is incredible racing. Oh, it got Harris again.
So there we go, pretty much 4 abreast coming out of that final turn, and it is anybody's still at this point. But obviously, I guess you've got a better view of what's going on out wide, have you, than obviously Bewley behind you?
Yeah, and I was also cautious of the lap before, is leaving that little gap coming off the last bend where obviously Dan cut back previous. So I made sure I kept it as tight as I possibly can, because there was still a little bit of fresh material right if you got close enough to the curb. But at some places you can actually ride your front wheel on the grass, but there is a big curb, so it's very hard to use that extra bit of fresh material on the inside. But I just kept it as tight as I could and my wheels as straight as possible.
Right, so here's the closing run.
From the outside, this is the final effort of the run to the line. Robert.
There you go. And actually, you were clear second place. There was no transponders involved for you and Dan Bewley just pipping Bomber on the line. That could have gone any way, but you were a clear second place and a stunning end to the British final there.
Yeah, no, it is a great feeling. It felt like a win to myself. I was celebrating quite a lot because, Bomber would probably be thinking the same. We obviously go to win it, but we knew Dan and Rob would already be in the Grand Prix, so it was very vital whoever beat each other that got the wildcard position. So, yeah, I'm very happy with and being at me. I'm from this area, and so it's quite a big deal to myself.
Yeah, exactly. You're a local lad. Former Bellevue rider as well, of course. I'm sure the Bellevue fans will still be obviously backing you when on that day, being the local lad as well, as all Brits will be, of course, when it comes to a Grand Prix. So tell us about the preparations now. A lot of people don't realise how much logistics goes into this now that you've been given this prize. Did you realise you were actually doing 2 Grand Prix when you got it? Because I think that was a bit of news, wasn't it, when that was told?
Yeah, I wasn't sure what the prize was. I knew one of them, but I didn't know how it worked. Whether the one that got a shot for the next one, I wasn't too sure how it happened. I was actually, my friend and my sponsor bought me a ticket to go and watch on the Saturday. Yeah, it was quite funny that, and now I'm sort of in it. I'm looking forward to it. And today, like yesterday, I was, because life doesn't stop, you still got to prepare I've got a meeting at Oxford on Thursday, so I was getting everything done yesterday, and then today I've got a bit of not an easier day, but just now trying to organise everything that is needed for the Grand Prix, because it's not like a normal meeting. There's so much that goes on it behind the scenes, and just started to get a couple of people trying to involve to take a bit of pressure off myself, because I've learned a lot from previous in 19 at Cardiff, that me and my partner did a lot of that, and it took its toll on us in the end. And just learning from first time and getting the right people around me to make it a lot easier for me.
Well, this is it. You have got that experience. A different proposition, of course, in it not being at Cardiff. But I think actually that would be in your favour, because Cardiff was always a bit of a leveller, the same way we're going to see Warsaw this week, where no home track advantage. You don't know exactly how the track's going to be until you get on it. Whereas at Manchester, you've got a good idea. You've just ridden it. You ride it regularly, ahead of a lot of these riders from elsewhere in the world, some of which will potentially never have been on it, certainly not in a Grand Prix. So you do come into it with a bit of home track advantage. You had a good time in Cardiff, let's not forget. That was a decent meeting for you, considering everything as well, that the atmosphere and the occasion. So with that extra knowledge of what is likely to happen in the day, the gear that you need, you must feel like you can give this a real crack.
Yeah, that's it. Riding for the club for 3 years, I do know my way, and setup is key. But there's the other perspective. Everyone will be on these tubeless wheels, what I'm not too familiar with, and how they react when you're riding the track. Because over here we run just tube tyres, so it's different tyres and how the bike reacts on the track. So there's other things like that to sort of get used to, and now I'll have to get 4 new back tubeless tyres. So going with it, I know what I need to get, and plenty of tyres for the meeting, and just so I'm at a playing level field with everyone and not at a disadvantage. So yeah, I sort of know what I need and what I need to do.
So in these, obviously these are like upgrades. Are these things that then you can carry through into your equipment for regular racing then as well? So you're getting tubeless tyres, you can run these in British Speedway as well if you want, either prior or after the meeting. So it's not just for the Grand Prix.
You can't run over here. You can use tubeless wheels, but you have to actually run like a tube inside. You can't just run them tubeless at all. And the tyres are a lot softer. It's the ones that they use in Poland, and they are a softer compound. And also with the pressure in the back tyres, completely different to over here. You have to run, of what I feel like, you have to run more in the back tyres. So there's a lot of things, but that comes with the practice. And with me riding for Landshut this year, it gives me sort of an idea, because you have to use them over there. It gives me an idea what you actually need them at and what's the best to use them.
Yeah, so you got a busy time. Have you had to reorganise a holiday as well now because of this?
It was never booked. It was just we were already looking, and it was the only week I had. Well, it was on. We had I think 5 or 6 days break, so we were already planning. It was never underway, but I'd rather go to riding the Grand Prix than go on holiday. So yeah, it's extra bonus really.
Different proposition in terms of the atmosphere. Of course, it's not going to be the same as Cardiff in terms of the big stadium, but you've got 2 Grand Prix to look forward to. So pretty unique, actually. It's happened during COVID, where they had a few meetings back to back, but since those times hasn't really happened before. So and you get that situation where, whatever happens, good or bad, on the Friday, you're straight back 24 hours later and have another go at it. So it's a good opportunity, because I guess maybe after Cardiff, you probably come off there thinking, I wish I was going to start that meeting again, knowing what I know now. And you have that opportunity now with this one.
That's it. You said it in one. It's, you can, if it all goes well on the first one, or if it doesn't go to plan, I live 15 minutes down the road here, and it's easy to come back and change something, an engine, and even after practice I can come home and I'm sleeping in my own bed, which is a big plus, and it's easy to rectify anything because it works out pretty good for myself living so close to the stadium.
Yeah, certainly quicker than getting to Cardiff, that's for sure. Well, all the best of luck for that then. It's in June, of course, mid-June, Friday and Saturday night at the National Speedway Stadium. Before you go, let's just quick talk about Oxford. We've got Luke Killeen coming up, so obviously he's part of the crew there as well. But for Oxford, you must feel now you've got a little bit of an opportunity to get some wind in your sails now, having had a couple of back-to-back wins against Birmingham, but a couple of big fixtures coming up now with Bellevue and Sheffield next.
Yeah, we know as in the management, have worked hard behind the scenes to change a few round. You never like to drop a rider, but it was what we needed to do. And bringing Craig in, it's just shown from the 2 meetings how much it's changed the team. And when you start winning again, it sort of lifts your spirits, because it can be very daunting. Is turning up, or is this going to be another loss? But a few wins under our belts sort of kick-start the season, and just hopefully we can carry the form on what we have the last 2 meetings.
And Craig seems to be in a good place, and he did well in the British final as well. I know he always points out that he's a bit behind everybody else in terms of where his season is. He started late, but he seems to, he's got decent gear under him. He seems to be potentially back to his best.
Yeah, the right Craig frame mind, Craig Cook can beat anyone. He's being at the highest level, and you don't lose it overnight. And now with him doubling up and more time on the bike is a massive thing. So yeah, it's been a good move by Oxford to bring Craig in. And
a great moustache as well, up there with the likes of Paco Castagna, I'd say, and maybe even Dale Wood. But he's certainly in that group. For the Redcar Bears in the championship, because the championship league season is just about getting underway. But 2 semi-finals for Redcar to look forward to: BSN Series, Knockout Cup. Pretty good start to the season for Redcar. Yeah,
the last so many seaters, probably the last 4. I can't remember a year like this since 19, where, bringing Eric back in. And last year it was very hard work on me and Danny, and it was last heat deciders. And, this year everyone's just seems to be doing their job, and it's very enjoyable to take a bit of pressure off myself. And, because I felt like it was a lot of pressure on my shoulders last year, and it's just a happy camp at the minute, but it's always going to be happy when you're winning. And, Jake coming into the team this year, the partnership with him's been awesome. And, everyone's just finding the feet and taking it up another level, and it's really enjoyable to be around.
And even when you've had injuries, there was that meeting where you lost the 2 reserves, Tom Spencer and Ace Piper. But even then, you're down to 5 riders and still had enough to see the meeting home pretty comfortably in the end.
Yeah, it just shows really what a strong team we have got. And, may it continue, and just have to keep level-headed and not get carried away with ourselves. I think that's the key. Because anything can change in Speedway. So, we'll just hopefully carry on what we're doing and get to the playoffs, and that's the aim, and go from there, really, Ian.
And how's life on the road with Eric? You're riding with Eric Riss in all 3 of your teams, Redcar, Oxford and Landshut. You're still friends so far?
Yeah, no, we're all good. When we have our time off, we still talk and stuff. We spend time with our families and have a bit of alone time as well. But no, we're really good, close friends away from Speedway as well. But yeah, so far so good. And I think the key is with anything, you try not to be in each other's pockets, and I think that's the key really. And no, everything's great between us, and yeah, we're both flying out to Germany on Friday, practice Saturday, and the meeting on Sunday. So very busy times at the minute.
You can both share Speedway Grand Prix wildcard stories as well now.
Funnily enough, I've been on the phone to him for an hour this morning about how all the rules and everything, and he sent me a few things over and a few things that need to be done on the day, just so I'm a bit ahead instead of a bit behind, because a month's not very long. Last time I had to wait 2.5 months, so I've got a lot shorter notice, and with me being so busy, I can't really think too much. And when I do get the time, stuff's got to be sorted, and trying to get people around me to sort that, to just take the pressure off and just concentrate on me, English and abroad racing until it comes around in June.
It's a great opportunity for you, though, isn't it? Not just going out racing against the best in the world, but for you, it puts you on the world radar for other clubs, for exposure for yourself, for your sponsors, not least as well. It's the best shop window you could ever be in, personally and professionally, really, for Speedway.
Yeah, I've always been one of them behind the scenes. never stand out. I've always gone about my own stuff, but yeah, it's a good opportunity. Hopefully people come on board and support us, and I know what I'm capable of doing, Ian, and it's just these top lads, they have the best of the best, and to compete with them you need to have the best also. There's only so much talent you can have and do on a bike, so yeah, it's the whole package really.
Okay, well, all the very best for the big day then anyway, Charles. Thanks for joining us this morning. 13th and 14th of June, the British Wildcard for 2 rounds of the Speedway Grand Prix at the National Speedway Stadium.
Cheers, Ian.
So there's more national titles to be decided this week. The focus is on the youth. The British Under-21 Championships take place in Glasgow on Sunday, and we'll be joined by Luke Killeen, who is part of the lineup and the winner of the Under-21 Semi Final in Plymouth a week or two ago. He's with us next on No Breaks, No Fear.
That moment when you realize your skincare is actually working. That's Rodan & Fields, the #1 female dermatologist-founded skincare brand in the U.S. Designed by 2 dermatologists who don't just know women's skin, they know how to formulate for it. Rodan & Fields, love what you see. Tap the banner or visit rodanandfields.com/Spotify to get your exclusive welcome offer.
Shopping is hard.
I can never find anything in my size.
I don't even know my size.
I buy my clothes the same place I buy my groceries.
There's a better way. Make it easy with Stitch Fix. Just share your size, style, budget, and done. Your personal stylist sends pieces picked just for you.
That was easy.
Stitch Fix. Online personal styling for everyone. Free shipping and returns. No subscription required. Get started today at stitchfix.com.
This episode is brought to you by Netflix. 3 couples, 4 vacations, a lot to unpack. Watch The 4 Seasons, a new series starring comedy favorites Tina Fey, Steve Carell, Will Forte, Coleman Domingo, and more in a hilarious and heartfelt love letter to long-term relationships. Based on the original Alan Alda film. Watch The 4 Seasons, streaming now only on Netflix.
No Breaks, No Fear. The official British Speedway podcast.
On to the next major event in British Speedway then, and that is on Sunday. The focus is on Glasgow's Ashfield Stadium for the next major event, and it's the British Under-21 Championship. Who will be the British Under-21 champion? Sam Hagan is the reigning champion. He'll be defending his title, but there's no shortage of home talent from Glasgow involved as well. The likes of Dan Thompson and Ashton Bowsion in the lineup. And someone else is in the lineup is Luke Killeen, who qualified as the winner of the Under-21 Semi Final at Plymouth a couple of weeks ago. Before we get into that, though, just a word about your teammate there, Luke. Charles Wright were British #2 into 2 rounds of the Grand Prix Series. It was a good night for the Spires in the British final on that front.
Yeah, it was great to see. I think to see that happen, especially, being a teammate of his, it was cool for me to see. I was definitely rooting for him in that final.
And a lot of riders in there as well that obviously you either ride with or have been around. I think it was a good mix, actually, and Robert Lambert touched on this in his interview, a good mix of obviously established riders. Bomber, of course, one of your teammates last season, 42 years old, almost got himself into the Grand Prix as well, ahead of Charles Wright. Went obviously a dramatic last heat. Have you ever seen a final heat like that? A lot of people saying that's one of the best heats of Speedway you'll see.
Yeah, I think, everyone was going at it for 4 laps, and they were all on the pace. There was that, I think everyone led at some point in that final. So it was definitely a great one to watch, and I was happy I was there because the atmosphere was amazing.
I think as well, it's obviously the respect the riders had. Obviously, you've got 4 either at the time current or former British champions in there, so they've been right to the very top of the sport in this country, but all going at it, but all riders giving each other fair racing room as well. Even though it looked a little bit dicey in spots, it was all a fair race, wasn't it?
Yeah, there was a couple of closer calls coming out of Bend 4, I noticed, but no, there was definitely plenty of racing room and some smart racing there, and no, I don't think any of that was dirty.
Now, looking at the British Under-21 final coming up in Glasgow, this does have a bit of a link to the main British final, not least the championship. But whilst the wildcards have been decided, I think track reserve places are up for grabs in this Under-21 final as well in Glasgow. So a good performance there could see yourself or any of the other riders who do well in it lining up as track reserves for the British Grand Prix as well when they come to Manchester.
Yeah, I think I noticed last year it was the top two were reserves. So that's definitely a big goal. But no, I'm not going there to come second. You know, obviously I aim to win it. But Dan Thompson's on very strong form at his home track, so it's definitely going to be a huge task. But yeah, that's what we're going there for.
And looking at this, as you mentioned, Glasgow, once again, the host venue. It's been there for the last couple of years now. A track that's obviously similar in a way to Bellevue, I suppose. Quite a wide races track, I suppose. You can go full throttle around it, can't you? But what's been your experiences there in the previous times?
I quite enjoy the track. I think it's pretty hard not to. I don't think I've got the best track record there, but I believe I won a race in the under-21s there last year. So, yeah, there's no reason I can't do it again, but we're obviously going to have to knuckle down because this year's the lineup's looking very tough.
Obviously, it's a question that you're probably sick of answering, but there will be people saying, hang on a minute, you've got an Australian accent. How are you in the British Under-21 final? But you have family links. You're a British passport holder, and so therefore you qualify. So just to clear that elephant in the room up, because there will be people asking that question. I know you've answered it before, but just to give a bit of the backstory.
Yeah, I did notice a few comments after the under-21 semi final, the qualified down at Plymouth, and I don't think there were a few people too happy with me winning that, or going through to the final. But both my parents were born and raised here, so all of my bloodline comes from the UK. But yeah, I was just born in Australia. Both my parents had moved out there at separate times and met out there. So no, it's not my fault I've got the accent, but if you go down my bloodline, it's all British.
There you go. And you did mention there, obviously, the semi-final. You had to come through that in Plymouth, which obviously not the easiest of places to go. And a bit of drama there as well, wasn't there, with the runoffs? I'm not sure if that involved you or not, but I think there was a bit of controversy there. But you made your way through and you won the event on that night. And obviously you'll be obviously pleased to make it through to the full event.
Yeah, it was a nice little kick in my step to go down there and perform pretty well. I felt consistent all night, but then again, it's a very different track to Glasgow. You could probably say polar opposites. So I don't know if that's going to be any help, but it is a nice bit of confidence and my first individual trophy in the UK too, so that's good.
Yeah, good way to kick off your campaign there. And well, we saw Dan Thompson in the main event. Obviously, he won the British semi-final at Leicester and had a good performance in the meeting as well, and really mixed it with some of the riders. And you never know what can happen. You're through to the main event. So here's the lineup. And this is draw order as well. So Sam McGurk 1, Max Perry 2, Sam Hagan 3 and Jody Scott 4th. Luke Harrison 5, Ashton Bowden 6, 7 is Freddie Hodder, 8 Ace Piper, 9 Joe Thompson, 10 Ben Trigger, William Cairns 11, Nathan Ablett 12, Dan Thompson 13, Vinnie Ford 14, Luke Killeen, that's you, 15, and Jake Mulford 16. So that's the full lineup. Track reserves will be Senna Summers and Steen Piper, by the way, for the track reserve spotters. So looking at that lineup, as you say, you kind of got a little bit of a task with some home riders there. Ashton Bowden, Freddie Hodder, not least Dan Thompson, obviously reigning champion Sam Hagan as well, won the event on the same track last year. So there's a few of the favourites, but you're definitely there to mix it up.
Yeah, I want to get involved in that. Hopefully ruffle some feathers, but we'll have to wait and see. I'm racing on Thursday, so we'll look to that first. And hopefully, yeah, a good confidence-boosting meeting on Thursday and set me in good stead for Sunday.
I think as well, with these individual events, obviously there is a good amount of riding involved, but you also need that luck, don't you, on the one-off events. You need things to go your way. mechanical issues can come up. Somebody can drop off in front of you and that can set you back, clean you out. You don't know what's going to happen. So you need a little bit of luck. But obviously there's the rest is down to you, and making a good start as well will certainly help. Yeah, that's it. And like you said, some people falling off in front, but if you make a start, there's no one in front of you in the first place. So it's, gating's definitely key. But we'll have to wait and see how it goes. I think, just a solid performance and I'll be happy. And it is a big thing. You look at the history of the British Under-21 Championship. It's a bit of a who's who of British Speedway riders over the years. I think most of the really successful riders have either, if not won it, they've been on the podium. So obviously great to try and add your name to those names as well, and that could be as soon as this Sunday. Yeah, hopefully so. It'd be good to get my name down in the book. But no, we'll see. I know Connor Bailey won it a few years ago, and he was obviously an Australian on a British license, if you want to call it that. But yeah, I think it'd be nice to do it again. And with that situation, obviously, your accent aside, then, so you now, I'd say, you've been brought up in a sort of a British family, I suppose, in respect, whilst you might not have been in Britain, obviously British values and so on. So for your further career then, do you look towards Team Great Britain as the team that you want to be involved in when, in senior Speedway? Yeah, I won't be changing or jumping ship now. I've committed to sticking with GB, and they said if I promised that I'd stay, I could get some opportunities, and they've given me those opportunities now. So I'm gonna stick with GB and fly the Union Jack. Works both ways, of course, because Rory Schlein has been the British champion, and he's actually ridden for Australia and all the rest of it, hasn't he? So he's been more invested in it than you have. Let's be fair. Yeah, I think I'm not sure why. Like, some people don't quite like it, but if anything, you're gaining another rider that's representing your country. So there's no reason, people should be too mad about it. But no, I try to not look at it too much, because it's obviously not positive when people are going on about that. So there's no use trying to get myself down over things like that. In many ways, it's a parallel to the likes of Ty Woffenden. He did something very similar, I suppose. And you're sort of good friends with Ty, aren't you? And obviously what's happened to him has been, obviously, everybody was devastated about that, but pleased to see the fact that he is on the road to recovery, and he's sharing these updates seemingly every day on his Instagram, and he's really working hard, isn't he? So have you spoken to Ty? How's he getting on? Yeah, I've spoken to him here and there, not too much. Obviously, he's going to want to be with his family, and, I don't want to be nagging him in the background, but no, he's good. He's working on it, and he's obviously, as everyone can see, he's getting better day by day. And that's not, that's not down to luck or anything like that. It's he's definitely working hard for it, and it's paying off already. Yeah, it's good to see him even, out walking and going to Speedway meetings so soon, considering, the severity of everything that happened. So it's fantastic to see him back on his feet at the very least. And whatever happens from there, so be it. But it's good to see that he's back up and about and able to do stuff again. Looking at your calendar then, it's been a bit of a quiet week or two, really, I think, for Speedway in general. You did have one of the only fixtures last week, and quite a big one for Oxford. Oxford winning the Southern Group in the BSN Series. I think when you look at Pool's season last year, they started obviously as favourites in everything because they won everything last year. But to get one over Pool so early in the season, that's got to be a bit of a boost for the Cheetahs. And of course, it went down to a super heat on the home track as well. So obviously that bodes well for that kind of rivalry that we saw at the end of the season being reignited for 2025. Yeah, it was a narrow defeat at home. Obviously, like you said, the super heat, and we just lost out in that. But no, I think it's definitely good to go and win away, and we had to win to be able to go through to the semis for the BSN series. So it was, we've gained ourselves some more meetings, and it was good. It was tough to hold the head together, especially, I started off not so well, and then we had that big break with Dan Jilk's injury. But once that was finished too, I
yeah, I don't know. I didn't continue the meeting so well, and I just found it quite tough on a personal level. But a great team performance.
It must give the whole side a boost, though. I know that the Spires haven't had it all their own way, but for the Cheetahs, it has been a good start to the season. It's been a solid start. Obviously, getting one over Poole, I know it's a sort of a moral victory because you're both through to the semi-finals anyway, and may well meet again further down the line. Who knows? But to start off, in contrast to the Spires, how it's been pretty tricky to go in with a bit of confidence. For the Cheetahs must be a good position to be in.
Yeah, the team's holding really well. I feel we're strong in the middle order. We're strong at reserve with Mitch. Mitch has been doing amazing. And obviously Sam is Sam Masters. So, he's been leading by example, 16 points at Poole and a couple of effortless, they look effortless, 15-point maximums home and away. So it's I think we're quite strong right the way through and hopefully we can go one better.
And have you heard how Dan Julks is getting on? He was on this podcast a few weeks ago, but I know he's not riding for Leicester this week, but he took a bit of a knee injury, I think, didn't he?
Yeah, I didn't hear too much. I think he went and got some more scans the next day after Poole, but we haven't heard all too much since then. So, no, his knee's definitely in pain, but we haven't heard anything too serious.
On to your action for the Spires then. You're back at it on Thursday, hosting the Bellevue Aces, of course, reigning champions. Obviously looking to get a bit of a home advantage there against the Aces. Obviously, we know what Dan Bewley and Brady Kurtz are likely to bring to the party. But I think for the Spires now, it's a case of getting your season going properly, isn't it, now, after those bank holiday wins back-to-back?
Yeah, it was huge for us to win those meetings. I think it's lifted the mood in the camp. I think Rowan obviously found something that was working for him at home. I struggled a bit with those two meetings on that day. But Craig, obviously him coming in at reserve's been like unreal for the team. And it just takes a lot of pressure off as well. If we can all do our job, there's no reason we can't win.
Yeah, absolutely. And you look down the team lineup now, and really there's no reason why you can't get a decent score. You're all riders who have performed individually even this season and got decent scores, but it's just kind of it got clicking together on the right night, isn't it? Which it maybe did against Birmingham, but against Bellevue perhaps would be a bigger victory if you can make it all click and do what you're capable of.
Yeah, that's it. And they were. Obviously, with it being midday at Oxford, it was a very slick track. And I had my sort of go-to engine in for service at the time. There was, it was busy leading up and it was due a service. I didn't want to risk it blowing up. So I sent that off the next day. And then I had to ride my strongest engine on possibly the slickest track I've ridden this season. So I think now that I've got the go-to back and it's an evening meeting, hopefully there's a bit more moisture in the track and I can personally find my feet. But, all the boys did so well, and Charles is definitely going to be on a high. Eric's been so good this season. You can't fault him. So I think, like you said, it's a matter of all clicking at once, and hopefully we can turn over the Aces.
This is something that maybe people don't realise, that you can have a too powerful engine, that it's not all about the fastest engine or the most powerful. Sometimes you can have an engine that's a little bit sort of down on power, but actually in certain circumstances that is exactly what you need. You don't want it all guns blazing fastest engine that you'd blast around Poland, for example, that you need something a little bit tamer sometimes.
Yeah, a lot of the boys who are racing out in Poland, obviously you can't keep bringing your bikes back and forth, but they don't send engines that they've used in previous years out there. They, or maybe, they will, but they'll bring them to a tuner and get them softened off so that, because too much power and you can't get any grip, the wheel's just going to spin on the surface and there'll be no traction. So, I think, we were trying everything, me and my mechanic, were trying everything we could that day and nothing really seemed to work. So hopefully with something a little bit softer now, it'll come together.
And then next week, you got another big one against Sheffield as well, which is obviously going to be another tough task. And obviously no shortage of Aussie faces in there. Unfortunately, Ty Woofenden won't be one of them. But Jack Holder, Josh Pickering, Chris Holder, that's a tasty lineup coming up next week as well, isn't it?
yeah, that's going to be definitely a tough meeting. You know, and Anders has been performing everywhere he's gone so far from what I've been watching. So, you know, even last night it was unbelievable. So it's that's going to definitely be a tough one. Leon Flint at Rising Star. Yeah, they're just a solid team right the way through. But then again, we've got to, you know, it's at our home track, so there's no reason we can't go and try and turn them over.
Yeah, of course, and a couple of those fixtures are going to be on BSN as well. So your fixture against Sheffield is on BSN next Thursday, and the British Under-21 Championship also on BSN on Sunday afternoon as well from Glasgow. So watch out for those. You can watch those and watch Luke in action wherever you are. And then on Monday, the Bellevue Aces will be on TNT Sport, and they are hosting the Leicester Lions from the National Speedway Stadium. Well, look, thanks for joining us, Luke. Ride safe, and all the best for the Under-21 Championship on Sunday, and wait and see how you get on.
Thank you very much. Cheers. I'll give them my everything.
Luke Killeen, and you can go to Glasgow to watch the British Under-21 Final this Sunday afternoon, and it's also live on BSN as well if you can't make it in person. All the coverage on BSN on Sunday afternoon, I believe, starting at 2:30. The build-up tapes up at 3. Before that, though, we've got another Grand Prix to cram into the calendar, heading to Warsaw, the biggest Grand Prix of the year, and it's a busy month for Grand Prix as we head to the end of May. We've got Grand Prix in Prague, and then the next one after that will be Manchester. We'll have a look back at the previous Grand Prix, the curtain raiser in Landshut, and ahead to what Warsaw has in store with TNT Sports' Kelvin Tatum, who's next.
Ladies, you'll end up shopping for your guy's deodorant, right? So try Degree's Original Cool Rush. You see, last year, Degree changed the formula, and men were mad. One guy even started a petition. So Degree admitted they messed up and brought the Original Cool Rush scent back. It's clean, crisp, and actually smells like someone you want to cuddle. And it's in Walmart, Target, and other stores now for under $4. So toss one in your cart and find out why it's the best-selling men's antiperspirant for the last decade. Degree Cool Rush is back, and it smells like victory.
Subtle results, still you, but with fewer lines. Botox Cosmetic, out of botulinum toxin A, is a prescription medicine used to temporarily make moderate to severe frown lines, crow's feet, and forehead lines look better in adults.
Effects of Botox Cosmetic may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness may be a sign of a life-threatening condition. Patients with these conditions before injection are at highest risk. Don't receive Botox Cosmetic if you have a skin infection. Side effects may include allergic reactions, injection site pain, headache, eyebrow and eyelid drooping, and eyelid swelling. Allergic reactions can include rash, welts, asthma symptoms, and dizziness. Tell your doctor about medical history, muscle or nerve conditions including ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease, myasthenia gravis, or Lambert-Eaton syndrome, and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects. For full safety information, visit BotoxCosmetic.com or call 877-351-0300.
See for yourself at BotoxCosmetic.com.
This episode is brought to you by Factor. Optimize your nutrition this year with Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal service. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved, ready to eat in just 2 minutes. Choose from 40 weekly options across 8 dietary preferences like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Eat smarter at factormeals.com/listen50 and use code listen50 for 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. Factormeals.com/listen50, code listen50. T's and C's apply.
No brakes, no fear. The official British Speedway podcast.
So we've touched on the Grand Prix series coming to Great Britain. Before that, there's 2 more rounds to go, starting with one this weekend. And certainly it is the biggest in terms of attendance at the Narodowy Stadium in Warsaw. Round 2 is the Speedway Grand Prix of Poland, Warsaw. And it follows up from the first round in Landshut a couple of weeks ago, which was won by Bartosz Szmaszlik, who also claimed the sprint race as well, the first sprint race. And Bartosz Szmaszlik already leads the series. It was a perfect performance. 24 points on the board for Szmaszlik. Second place in the world standings at the moment is Dan Bewley, who got 18 points in the second place in Landshut, and third Andrei Lebedev's. Brady Kurtz had an impressive start to life in the Grand Prix series as well, getting second place in the sprint race, which is going to be sprint races happening at I think 5 rounds through the Grand Prix series as part of qualifying and he also got himself into the final as well with 14 points on the event, and then 3 from the sprint race. So Brady Kurtz currently standing in 4th place in the world after his very first Grand Prix. I caught up with Kelvin Tatum earlier on his own podcast, which is called Tatum Talks, where we look back on Landshut and ahead to Warsaw, but also Prague, which is coming at the end of the month. And started by talking about Brady Kurtz's debut in the Grand Prix Series.
Yeah, brilliant start for Brady. He rode with real confidence, and he's a really professional guy now. You know, he looks like he's really at one with everything, and you know, stepping into it as a fully fledged Grand Prix rider for the first time he started. He will be disappointed not to have made the rostrum. He may reflect on hindsight being what it is, that he chose the wrong gate in the final. But in truth, he's got off to a really good start and an encouraging start for him. And I'm sure he'll be looking forward to the upcoming Grand Prix as a consequence. He would have, you know, there will be definitely more belief, I believe, going into the next Grand Prix. And it's a busy month with 3 Grand Prix this month. So, yeah, brilliant from Kurtz. I think that was really encouraging. Bartosz Marzlik, of course, was actually red hot right from the get-go. New format, new qualifying. A lot of people suggesting that it was introduced to try and stop him. It did everything bar that, because he basically maxed out. He was fabulous, and there was some controversy. He was late to the draw. He should have had the first draw for the evening. He ended up getting the last draw because he was a few seconds late, which he was unhappy about. And there were mitigating circumstances there. That was quite draconian, that decision. But beware the angered world champion, I would suggest, because he then put in a performance which was outstanding, and he came away with 24 points. So, yeah, we're up and running. Fair play to Bewley. I thought Bewley was steady. He sort of didn't grab your attention during the first 20 races. But the move around the first corner in the final really put it on the line. Nearly tore his leg off going down the back straight. That's how committed he was. He even said in the interview he thought he'd broken his foot. But that was great for him to pick up a second place. But I've got to say, it's ominous for the opposition when Bartosz Marzlik can ride as well as that.
Yeah, it was an impressive performance. We did find that I think Gate 1 was really benefiting the riders, wasn't it, throughout? Obviously, they all get it at some point, so I guess it evens out. But from that point of view, it's perhaps a little bit predictable to an extent. But the only riders really breaking that trend were the likes of Schmarslik and Kurtz, and I think Anders Thompson maybe might have popped out as well. He was doing all right.
He was, yeah. Thompson started strongly, actually, and it was surprising. Before the podcast, I actually look back at the results. So actually, he faded quite badly at the second half of the meeting, which sort of I thought he did better than he actually ended up doing. He didn't quite deliver towards the back end of the meeting. But yes, Gate 1 was hugely advantageous. And when you look at Lebedev's performance, he actually got Gate 1 on 3 consecutive times at the back end of the meetings, which no question was of benefit to him. To making it through with the last chance qualifier with only the winner going in. Of course, you know, that's changed. But, yeah, I like the new format. I thought particularly for qualifying. I know a lot of people were raving it about the race format. I don't dislike it, but I haven't fallen in love with it either. I think I need to see 1 or 2 more Grand Prix just to see exactly how that works out. But there's no doubt, purely from a selfish point of view, Ian, and you'd be exactly the same, if you were commentating on qualifying, it's a game changer. Yeah. It is a game changer because clearly you've got jeopardy, you've got the clock, you've got, has he done it, has he not? Yes, he's done it. All of that really was much more exciting.
And a bit of drama as well, because didn't Brady Kurtz come out and do a couple of practice starts this time? Too.
Oh, mate, crazy. Like, I know Aussies can be laid back, but he just took it to a whole new level. I mean, he was horizontal and he came out for his minute dash. And I mean, I'm thinking, not sure you should be doing a practice start. And then he did it again. And both times he managed to get the better time. So I don't know whether he was super confident, whether he was unaware of how much time he had, because the first or second time, I can't remember exactly, but he literally had 2 or 3 seconds left to get the second time in. And, he would have had a bigger margin if he hadn't have had the practice start. But added drama, that just brought an added dynamic that we haven't had before. So that kind of stuff was actually really quite cool.
Yeah, it gives a real focus to it, and I think many of the Grand Prix are going to have this format. Not all of them, because I think some of them where they've got other events going on, it's going to be a bit more of a traditional qualifier, isn't it? So it's not the way every event, I don't think. There is a bit of change.
The only thing that won't happen, Ian, is that you won't have a sprint race.
That's right, yeah.
You'll still have Q3. So effectively, the similar format, it just won't be a race at the end of it, which I'm not quite sure why, but hey. But yeah, 5 sprint races and then 5 with Q3. But even so, it won't be quite as dramatic because there's no World Championship points for those meetings. But I think on 4 more occasions, I think we can look forward to it.
And then, as you say, that it all fell well with the weather. There was rain around. There was a big storm afterwards. So in a way, obviously, it was fortunate that to get the meeting through, because had it happened or the weather come in slightly earlier or whatever, then you might have been in trouble.
Yeah, and the weather changed dramatically. It was 28 degrees when we arrived on Friday. It was chilly and drizzly on Saturday, on and off. We did have rain during the day, but I would say a couple of hours after the meeting, I mean, we had lightning on the way back to the hotel when we were driving out of the stadium, and it was really biblical, and it was still raining heavily when we went to the airport Sunday, so that was pleasing to avoid that and get off to a start that, some riders will, like Jason Doyle, will reflect on a meeting to forget, and coming back into the series after a long absence from last year where he got off to such a great start. He'll be hoping that the Narodovi in Warsaw next week is a lot more fruitful. He won there last year, so he'd be looking for that. Freddie Lindgren also slightly disappointing. And when you look at it, there are 9 rounds left. It's a fairly short series. Of course, people can turn things around and lots can happen. But with 24 points for Smarslik, like Freddie Lindgren is already 12 points behind. They're going to need Smarslik to trip up.
Yeah.
Even after one Grand Prix. And that's why I say his performance, his speed, his hunger and desire were breathtaking. They really were. He won last year, but he never had great speed at times, and to the point where he was experimenting with other engines. But I mean, he hit the ground running in Lambert, which was, as I say, he threw the gauntlet down to everybody else.
Yeah, you think, maybe this might be the year where he sort of tails off and then comes out and pops those scores in, both in the sprint and in the main Grand Prix. And it's like, maybe next year.
Drawing board.
But as well with the weather, that could have been nowadays as well in the pits. You see this, particularly the Grand Prix boys, and I've seen Emil do this, Doyley, Jack Holder. They've got these weather stations now, haven't they, as well, which they can bring this thing out and it detects the humidity, and of course you're talking about thunder and that kind of condition. You've got a lot of humidity and a lot of environmental changes there with the air pressure, and that nowadays that is such a big thing for the riders. They're getting these readings, they're phoning up their tuners, they're making changes to the timing boxes and all this now. It's getting quite scientific in the pits these days.
Yes, and I think with the window of the sweet spot of the bike being narrower in modern day times than it was previously, the weather stations are hugely important, and you build up data as you go through the different circumstances, different weather patterns, different temperatures, and as you gain the data, you can reflect on it and actually have a more educated way of making decisions with bike setup. Because clearly, setup and getting the bike to run, like Jason, I don't know if he rode as well as he might have done, but the bike clearly didn't work as well as it should have done. And I think that it's an added tool that the riders are beginning to use, which makes sense, doesn't it? Makes sense.
Yeah, there's a lot more goes on than just looking at it and going, well, I'll stick that sprocket on the back and away we go. It's got a bit more involved, hasn't it?
Air in the tyres, let's go. It's not quite as straightforward as that. And as I say, the margins are so small and everybody's got good equipment. And there isn't a vast difference between it. So maximising everything you possibly can, of course, vital, I would say.
So for the Grand Prix Series N, we move on next to the big one now, biggest on the calendar, Warsaw in Poland, the Narodowy Stadium. There'll be 50-odd thousand people there. Obviously, always a big event. Obviously, in this country now, we've lost Cardiff, so we have nothing really to compete on that scale anymore. But a focal point. Obviously, we know how big Speedway is in Poland, and there is that thing, though, about it that nobody has home track advantage. It's a temporary track, and so there is that potential jeopardy there. And perhaps we have seen a variety of winners on these particular circuits.
Yes, absolutely. And there's no question that is a very valid point that you bring up about the fact that it is very different from a traditional Polish speedway track. It's not Wrocław, Gorzów, Torun, very far from it. So home track advantage, certainly for the Polish contingent, doesn't exist. And going further to that, a Polish rider hasn't won in an Narodowy. They got on the rostrum, and until last year, Bartosz Marzlik hadn't made the final. So the fact of the matter is that they will be very much hoping that a Polish rider can win. I believe it's Dudek is the wild card.
Yes.
Not such a strong contingent in the Polish ranks right now, which is slightly surprising. Kubera is solid, but is he a winner? I'm not sure. He's yet to prove that. Bartosz Marzlik is, but without him, the Poles are still, I think they're not quite maybe as strong as they once were. They're waiting for the new SGP2 riders like Sieniak, Przemski, Viktor Przemski, those type of riders to really start making an impact at senior level. But the Narodowy is a wonderful stadium. Warsaw, the capital city, the national stadium. It's a high-profile Grand Prix, and it's one that is very well attended, and there's a fabulous atmosphere there. So, I'm sure every rider wants to win in there.
And 3 Grand Prix in May as well. We've had the first one, of course, Warsaw next, and then to Prague as well. So it is a packed month to get things underway. And then, of course, June's round the corner, Manchester to come. But just a quick word on Prague. That's right at the very end of the month, 31st of May. So it'll be another bank holiday kind of vibe going on around there as well. Again, one of the tracks that's been on the calendar for quite a while now. I think a lot of people quite like a trip to Prague as well.
Yeah, well, it's a lively place to go. It's there's plenty on offer in Prague, sure. But it's I think it's nearly been ever present. I think it's only missed 1 or 2 years. I mean, it's been around forever, the Marketa Stadium on the Grand Prix calendar. And of course, Martin Vaclik has won 3 consecutive Grand Prix there in the last 3 years. A wonderful run of form. Can he repeat that again? It would be wonderful if he could, I'm sure. It's effectively his home Grand Prix. But there's, they've got Jan Kvek, the Czech people, the Czech fans. And you'd like to think that Jan would maybe put in a really strong performance. He's capable, I think. I think he is capable, but that would be a bit of a fairy tale, wouldn't it, if they got one of their own to win in the Marketa. But yeah, you say it's a busy month for Grand Prix.
Yeah, it would certainly be a popular one, and he's a popular rider as well, Jan Kvek. And looking at last time out in Prague, obviously, as you say, Vaclik won it. Ty Wolfenden, obviously unfortunate to see his situation at the moment after that terrible crash at the start of the season in Poland. Jason Doyle was on the podium. Matt Sajanowski had a decent one as well. So the riders that we often see here in Britain tend to do okay in Prague over the years.
Yeah, it's one of those tracks where it's a little hit and miss. You can have a fabulous Grand Prix there, or you can have a rather dull one. It's very much dependent on the weather leading up to it. It's an odd surface. It's sort of a very gravelly material that can dry too quickly, or it can be overwatered. It's quite a challenge. Thomas Topinka, actually, who is the track man there, the chief curator for the track there, does a decent job. But he is very much in the lap of the gods when it comes to the track prep, because it can be red hot actually in the Czech Republic at the end of May, and that in itself brings challenges. But you're right, yeah. British riders technically it's quite challenging. the surface has nothing to do with the UK. I mean, there's nothing quite like it here. I couldn't tell you there's a track in the UK that would be very similar. There isn't, but they do for whatever reason. They seem to, but let's hope that Dan Bewley or Robert Lambert can get up there. But for Bewley, like getting off to a second place after a disappointing qualifying actually in Lambert, which was a surprise. I'm sure he'll be looking to go well there, but you got to make starts in the Prague. You've got to make starts. It's a tough place to overtake.
It's a part of Speedway that I think a lot of fans don't really realise how big a variable it is. That they see a Speedway track and they think, well, you got your bike and you arrive at this stadium and you put your bike on there, and then why aren't you going as fast as you normally go around Bellevue or Kings Lynn or wherever? And the difference in the material here versus elsewhere in the world is actually quite big, isn't it? Because here, obviously, we're quite clay-based, and that means there's grip in the track. You get these sandier surfaces, obviously more cinder tracks in some places as well. So just talk to us in your experience of when you might have had, been flying at home for your team when you're riding for Coventry, for example, and then you go out with Great Britain and you're representing the nation or yourself in an individual event, and just everything that's been working perfectly just doesn't quite happen for one reason or another. Absolutely, and it can be really frustrating because you get to a place where it's a great big track, and you think, crikey, I'm going to need plenty of horsepower here, but conditions can catch you out, and it can be slick, and you can't get any grip, and you can't get any, and you'll get somebody that looks like they can hardly ride the bike, and they'll go by you. I've had it, and that is part and parcel of being an international rider. You need to become, adept at being able to read those conditions and being able to have different types of setups to be able to compete at it. But you're right. Riding in the UK is not just more technically demanding from the point of view of the surface. We have tighter tracks, and less room at times. But the surface on the continent requires a different mindset and a slightly different way of riding. And you need to sort of switch onto that. And as I say, generally, engines are, I would suggest, set up slightly differently for it. But it is a challenge, definitely. So there's the thoughts of Kelvin Tatum on the upcoming Grand Prix, starting with that one at Warsaw this weekend at the Narodowy Stadium. You can watch it, of course, on TNT Sports and Discovery Plus. Let's have a look at the week ahead in Speedway then. The Rowe Motor Oil Premiership returns this week. It's had a 10-day break, 3 fixtures both on Thursday and Monday. The leaders Ipswich have a 100% record as they head to Sheffield on Thursday. That's a big one, isn't it? Before making their second visit of the season to winless Birmingham on Monday. Champions Bellevue visit Oxford on Thursday, then host Leicester in Monday's televised fixture. The Lions also have a key home clash with playoff rivals Kings Lynn this Thursday, and you can see that too on BSN. Meanwhile, the Stars host Sheffield at the Adrian Flux Arena on Monday night. Looking at the Cab Direct Championship, the Cab Direct Championship League programme is now underway. And looking at the week ahead, Champions Pool open their league schedule at home to Scunthorpe. That's on Wednesday, so that might have happened by the time you hear this. The Pirates then move into a Northern Tour, visiting Edinburgh on Friday, Glasgow on Saturday. Then there's also league action for Scunthorpe, who host Glasgow on Friday, whilst Plymouth take on Edinburgh on Saturday. So a busy time north and south of the border. Lots going on in the championship. And meanwhile, just update you what's happening in the WSRA National Development League and the National Trophy. Just the one fixture in the NDL this week. Middlesbrough race at home for the first time in 2025 at the Echo Arena at Redcar, hosting the Sheffield Scunthorpe Steelers on Saturday afternoon at the Echo Arena. So those are your fixtures for the week ahead. An exciting week. We'll review it all for you next week as we head into what is a very busy period of the season now coming up. We've had a bit of a break in some fixtures, but certainly it's going to come thick and fast. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back with you next week on the next episode of No Brakes, No Fear. Have a great week in Speedway, and we'll catch you soon.
No Brakes, No Fear. The official British Speedway podcast.
podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.